Hi guys, hope you guys are doing alright. Today I just thought of something, I just thought let me just share something to uplift somebody out there. I know many of us tend to forget God's goodness because we're going through trials and tribulations, right? But there's one thing that I love doing whenever I sort of forget how good God has been. I remember the first sacrifice that God did for me, sending his only begotten son, the son who was never tainted, the only righteous son, the son whom he sent for me, and he didn't know, he gave me liberty to worship him, praise him, or obey him or follow him, but also he didn't know whether I'm going to worship him. He didn't know whether I'm going to comply and obey him, and follow his ways. He didn't know all of that, but he gave up his son anyway, right? Besides that first form of love and that first form of sacrificial love, the other thing that I go back to the tangible testimonies in my life. The first testimony, the fact that you can breathe, the fact that right now you're watching this video, that's one of the biggest testimonies you can ever ask for, because it means you still have another chance to make an impact. It means you still have another chance to grow and become better. It means you still have another chance to fulfill your dreams and your aspirations, right? That's a very, 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 very big miracle. Oprah Winfrey says it's a miracle that we can breathe. Every breath that you take is a miracle. Don't go around looking for these big, massive miracles to say, I own a house, I own a car. Those are miracles, those are great, but those are materialistics. It's the smallest things that should remind you that God lives, God is alive. Every day you wake up, there's light during the day. That's God. God's love manifested unto us. Every day you go to bed at night, there's darkness. That's God manifested. God's love manifested unto us. You take a walk, there's trees, there's greenery. That is God's love manifested unto us. But besides that, there's a song that I love so much. It says he won't fail, right? He won't fail. He won't fail. He will never fail. I want you to get this right. He will never fail. He's not done with your story. He's not done with your circumstances until it is good, until it is according to his will and purpose, right? There's something that I always like going back to. I always sit down whenever I forget God's goodness. I go back to a tangible testimony in my life. I always go back to my siblings. My whole life, my whole existence is a living testimony, but I always go back to my siblings. They turned 7 literally this month, right? They turned 7 years old. My siblings were diagnosed with meningitis when they were young, the very critical one. If you like 1 year or about 8 months, when you're diagnosed with meningitis, you're actually likely to die, And I remember one of the prayers, I had gotten to a point where I said, God, please give my siblings rest, even if it means you taking them away because of the pain they were going through. They were in and out of hospital. They were just so fragile. Any small cold, they're sick, they're not well, and eventually I would pray to God. I'm like, God, do your will. God, you faithful. God, I know you said we find abundance. We find a life that is full from you. And I know that you will never bring them into this world only for you to take them away before they fulfill purpose, only for you to take them away before they can become who you want them to be. And then at some point I got discouraged, I got dismayed, because I'm like, you know what? This keeps on happening. They keep on getting ill and they hospitalized, and my mother is like 1,000 miles away. She's on her own. I can't do anything. The only thing I have is prayer to offer her, So my siblings don't stay. We don't stay in the same country. So I'm thinking, God, what can I do for my mother? Because I know how my mother can be very emotional. I know how much my siblings mean to her, right? And then I keep on praying. But at some point, my mind changes. I'm just like, you know what, God, just give them rest. If it means you taking them away, do that. Because like the pain in my mother's voice, the pain in my mother's eyes, and even when I video call them, I felt it. I cried so much. At some point, I was just like, you know what, Mama, I know I've always said I'm not an overseas person. Listen, I'm ready to ditch everything. I could drop out of school and all of that and come help you. I was at that point where I'm just like, this is crazy, but God being God, and then he healed them. But because the enemy knows how to trick us. He healed them 1 year, 2 year, they're fine. When they're about 3, this thing attacks my brother alone. Oh boy. Did I not feel ambushed? I was like, you do not know who I praise. You do not know who I worship. You do not know who I walk with, guys. You walk with an entourage. You walk with an army. Once you understand that, you will know that nothing in this world can defeat you. So the enemy attacks my little brother. My little brother is hospitalized. My little brother is fighting for his life. Their doctor says, you know what? if this boy makes it, it's going to be such a miracle. Because also what happens is my brother is not responsive unless my little sister is there, because they're twins, right? My brother's not responsive unless my little sister is there. But also the doctors are concerned that if my little sister is constant at the hospital, my brother may quite depend on her. And besides that, my sister may end up also getting sick, so they try to sort of say, okay, my sister can go to the hospital but not as frequent, right? But my brother is fighting for his life. My brother is in machines. My brother is at the verge of losing his breath. Every like, I'm at church. I remember I was sitting at a church. I will forever be grateful. Like, guys, I will forever in my whole existence be grateful for that sister from church. I remember when my mother called me, she was in tears. She was crying, and she said to me, the doctor said he needs to operate your little brother. And to this day, it makes me really emotional, because I've seen the goodness of God. I've seen how faithful God can be, right? So this, my mother calls me. I'm in church, right? My mother calls me and says, hey, listen, the doctor said you need to, your brother needs to go for an operation. And because I'm a prayerful person, and I've realized that constantly people in my life get attacked, and I find myself having to step in prayer. So, and then my mother says, can I put him on a video call so that you pray for him before he goes to theater? And the only thing I could imagine is that what is my little sister gonna do? What are we gonna say to her? Because she was born with somebody, and this somebody is actually going to operation, and the doctor bluntly say, I'm operating him because that's the only option I have, but I'm not sure if it's gonna work. And I cried. I stepped out of church. I cried. I sat there, and I remember there's this lady, and she just passed on, and may her soul rest in peace. She came to me. She said, what is wrong? Why are you crying? Why are you sitting here when you're supposed to be in service? I said to her, I might lose my brother, and I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say to my mother, because my mother was hysterically crying. And Upasha said to me, listen, I've got she had a condition as well. She had holes behind her spine that eventually took her away. But when she was going through all of that, she consistently prayed for people. She consistently showed up for people. And she said to me, you can see my condition. You know what the doctors have said, but I have faith. And the very same faith that I walk in, I have faith that your brother will heal. You just have to fill in the gap. You have to stand and say he will heal. Guys, I cried. I was afraid. I was in fear. And wow, God amazed me. My brother was 3 at the time. And then I think after a couple of hours, the doctor came back and said he doesn't need to go to theater. He's stable. And because I think that even brought my little sister in. So they said, no, he's responding. He's stable. He doesn't have to go to theater. Everything is moving. Within a space of 48 hours, my brother had become alive. Like, he had become okay. At first, he was forgetting. He couldn't even, my siblings recognize me. Like, we do a lot of video calls. He couldn't recognize me anymore. But after that, 48 hours in, my brother can see me. My brother is responsive. My brother is smiling. My brother is happy. And the doctor finally said he can go home. And I sat there and marveled at the glory of God. And you see, I still cry today, because I want to remind you that this miracle took place 4 years ago. But I want to remind you that God is an everyday miracle. God's presence in our lives is an everyday miracle. When you call unto him, when you seek him, when you have faith in him and believe in him, he always makes a way. My brother, my siblings, both of them, their lives are a testimony to me, and a testimony to my family. They turned 7 this year, and it's wild. And after that occurrence where my brother almost died, they've never been hospitalized. It's always these minor little things because they're kids. And my mama is always like, oh my God, they have to go to hospital. I don't want any mistakes, but it's been amazing, because it tells you how God is faithful. God is faithful. God is faithful. Thank you, guys.